Hello, everyone. It's Audrey with Audrey's Variety Show, Movie Inside the Bible. And today I am bringing you yet another installment of this Let's Read the Bible. This time, Genesis 11 through 20. And you know what? I think the devil was busy because I had already recorded this, and this was like an hour plus of me recording just for it not to be recorded. Just for it to have stopped recording at some point, and then I ended up getting sick and car breaking down. Just a lot of bad things happening, and it's been a time. But so I didn't really do anything this past week. Um, really, it wasn't until this weekend that I felt better and started doing stuff. So here we go again, and where we last left off was with Noah. We have the beginning of everything, and God's creation with Adam and Eve, and the fall of Adam and Eve, and then we had a lot of lineage and the multiplication of men on the earth, and ultimately things having to be destroyed because had become so wicked. Yet God had found one, and that one was Noah. And then we went through Noah and the building of the ark and the leaving of the ark back on the new earth. And here we are. So I'm going to be reading from the New King James Version, and let's get started. And I pray that the Holy Spirit will be with me as I read, and spend time with us, and really just paint this picture for us as we get engrossed in His Word, and like a movie almost, just like a movie is in our mind of how all of this has played out. All right, Genesis 11. Now the whole earth had one language and one speech. And it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. Then they said to one another, Come, let us lay bricks and bake them thoroughly. They had a brick for stone, and they had asphalt for mortar. And they had said, Come, let us build ourselves a city, and the tower whose top is in the heavens, let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered abroad over the face of the whole earth. But the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which sons of men had built. And the Lord said, Indeed, the people are one, and they all have one language. And this is what they begin to do. Now nothing that they propose to do will be withheld from them. Come, and and there let us go down there and confuse their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them from abroad from there over the face of all the earth, and they ceased building the city. Therefore its name is called Babel, because the Lord confused the language of all the earth, and from the Lord scattered them abroad all over the face of the earth. Verse 10. This is the genealogy of Shem. And Shem was 100 years old, and begot Asphad 2 years after the flood. After he begot Asphad, Shem lived 500 years, and begot sons and daughters. Arphaxad lived 35 years, and begot Salah. After he begot Salah, Arphaxad lived 403 years, and begot sons and daughters. Salah lived 30 years, and begot Eber. After he begot Eber, Salah lived 403 years, and begot sons and daughters. Eber lived 34 years, and begot Peleg. And after he begot Peleg, Eber lived 430 years, and begot sons and daughters. Peleg lived 30 years, and begot Reu. After he begot Reu, Peleg lived 209 years, and begot sons and daughters. Reu lived 32 years, and begot Serug. And after he begot Serug, Reu lived 207 years, and begot sons and daughters. Serug lived 30 years, and begot Noah. After he begot Noah, Serug lived 200 years and begot sons and daughters. Noah lived 29 years and begot Terah. I'm ahead of myself. After he begot Terah, Nahor lived 119 years and begot sons and daughters. Now Terah lived 70 years and begot Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Verse 27. This is the genealogy of Terah. Terah begot Abraham, getting ahead of myself, Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Haran begot Lot. And Haran died before his father Terah in his native land, in Ur of the Chaldeans. Then Abram and Nahor took wives, and the name of Abram's wife was Sarai. And then the name of Nahor's wife was Milcah, the daughter of Haran and the father of Milcah and the father of Iscah. But Sarai was barren; she had no child. And then, and then, and Terah took his son Abram and his grandson Lot, and the son of Haran, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, and his son Abram's wife, and they went out from them from Ur of the Chaldeans to go to the land of Canaan. And they came to Haran and dwelt there. So the days of Terah were 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. Genesis 12. Now the Lord said to Abram, Get out of your country and from your family and from your father's house, to a land that I will show you, and I will make you a great nation. I will bless you, and I will make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse those that curse you. And in all the families and all the earth shall be blessed. So Abram departed as the Lord had spoken to him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. And then Abram took Sarai his wife, and his Lot and his brother's son, and all the possessions that they had gathered, and the people whom they had acquired in Haran, and they departed to go to the land of Canaan. So they came to a land of Canaan, and Abram passed through the land to the place of Shechem, as far as the terebinth tree of Moreh, and the Canaanites were in the land. Then the Lord appeared to Abram and said, To your descendants I will give this land. And there he built an altar to the Lord, who had appeared to him. And he moved from there to the mountain east of Bethel. And he pitched his tent with Bethel on the west, and Ai on the east. And there he built an altar to the Lord, and called on the name of the Lord. So Abram journeyed, going on still toward the south. Verse 10. Now there was a famine in the land, and Abram had went down to Egypt to dwell there, for there was a famine, and it was severe in the land. And it came to pass that when he was close to entering Egypt, that he said to Sarai his wife, Indeed, I know that you are a woman of beautiful countenance. Therefore it will happen when the Egyptians see you, that they will say, This is his wife, and they will kill me. But they will let you live. Please say that you are my sister, that it may be well with me for your sake, that I may live because of you. So it was, when Abram came to Egypt, and the Egyptians saw the woman, that she was very beautiful. And the princes of the Pharaoh also saw her and commended her to the Pharaoh. And the woman was taken to the Pharaoh's house. He treated Abram well for her sake. He had sheep, oxen, and male donkeys, male and female servants, female donkeys, and camels. But the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with a great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. And Pharaoh called Abram and said, What is this that you have done to me? Why did you not tell me that she was your wife? Did you Why did you say she is my sister? I might have taken her as my wife. Now therefore she is your wife, take her and go your way. So Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away with his wife and all that he had. Then Abram went up from Egypt and his wife and all that they had and Lot with them to the south. Abraham was very rich in livestock and silver and in gold. And when he went on the journey from the south as far as Bethel, to place where his tent had been in the beginning, between Bethel and Ai, to a place on an altar which he had made there at first. And then Abraham called on the name of the Lord. Lot also, who went with Abraham, had flocks and herds and tents. Now the land was not able to support them, that they might dwell together, for their possessions were so great that they could not dwell together. And there was a strife between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. The Canaanites and the Perizzites then dwelt in the land. So Abraham said to Lot, "Please, let there be no strife between you and me, and between my herdsmen and your herdsmen, for we are brethren. Is it not the whole of the land before you? Please separate it from me, and I will take the left. If you take the left, then I will go to the right. Or if you go to the right, I will go to the left." And Lot lifted his eyes and saw the plain of Jordan, and that it was a well watered everywhere. Before and like the garden of the Lord and the land of Egypt as you go toward Zor. Then Lot chose for himself all the plain of the Jordan, and Lot journeyed east and separated from each other. Abram dwelt in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelt in the land of the cities of the plain in which he had pitched his tent, even as far as Sodom. But when the men of Sodom were exceedingly wicked and sinful against the Lord, and the Lord said to Abram, after Lot had separated from him, "Lift your eyes now and look from the place where you are, northward, southward, eastward, and westward, for all the land which you have I give you and your descendants forever. And I will make your descendants as the dust of the earth, so that if a man could number the dust of the earth, then your descendants also could be numbered. Arise and walk in the land through its length and its width, for I give it to you." Then Abram moved his tent and went and dwelt by the terebinth trees of Amorim, which are in Hebron, and built an altar there to the Lord. Genesis 14. And it came to pass in the days of Aphronel the king of Shinar, Arak king of Aslar, Chedlo, Chedloamer king of Elam, and Tidal the king of the nations, that they had a war with the king of Ber, the king of Sodom, Bersha the king of Gomorrah, Shinab the king of Adamah, Shebner the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela. All of these joined together in the valley of Shittim. 12 years they served in Chedorlaomer, and in the 13th year they rebelled. In the 14th year of Chedorlaomer, and the kings that were with him came and attacked the Rephaim in the Ashertoth Karnaim, the Zuim in Ham, and the Enim in Shevath Kirahathim, and the Hortites in their mountains of Seir, and as far as the Peleran, which is by the wilderness. Then they turned back and came to En Mishpat, and attacked all the country of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites who dwelt in the Hazeron Tamar. And the king of Sodom, and the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Adam, and Admah, and the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela went out and joined in the battle together in the battle of the valley of Siddim, against the Chedorlaomer king of Elam, Tidal king of the nations, and Ephraim the king of Shinar, and the Arak of the king of Elasar, 4 kings against 5. Now the valley of Siddim was full of asphalt pits. And the king of Sodom and Gomorrah fled. Some fell there, and the remainder fled to the mountains. Then they took all the goods of Sodom and the Gomorrah and their provisions and went their way. They also took Lot, Abram's brother, son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed. Then one who had escaped came to and told Abram the Hebrew, for he had dwelt by the terebinths of Mamre, the Amorite brother of Eshcol and the brother of Aner, and they were allies with Abram. Now, when Abram heard that his brother had been taken captive, he armed his 318 trained servants who were born in his own house and went in pursuit as far as Dan. He divided his forces and put against them by night, and when he served, his servants attacked them and pursued them as far as Hobah, which is north Damascus. So he brought back all of the goods, and also brought back his brother Lot and his goods, as well as the women and the people. And the king of Sodom went out to meet them at the galley of Sheveth. And after his return from the defeat of the Chedorlaomer and the kings who were with him. Verse 18. Then Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought all of the bread and wine and was the priest of the God Most High. Then he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abram, the God of the Most High, possessor of the heaven and earth, and blessed be the God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hand. And he gave them a tithe of all. Now the king of Sodom said to Abram, Give me the persons and take the goods for thyself. But Abraham said to the king of Sodom, I have raised my hand to the Lord, the God Most High, the possessor of heaven and earth, that I will take nothing but a thread and a sandal strap, that I will not take anything that is yours, lest you say, I have made Abraham rich, except only that these young men have eaten, and the portion of men who went with me, Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre. Let them take their portion. Good for Abraham. He would not fall for that. So that was exciting. We got a battle. We have a battle amongst these kings of the land of Canaan. Genesis 15. After these things, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision, saying, Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your exceedingly great reward. But Abram said, Lord God, what will you give me, seeing I go childless into the heir of the house of Eliezer of Damascus? Then Abram said, Look, you have given me no offspring, indeed one born in my own house is heir. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him, saying, This one shall not be your heir, but the one who will come from your own body shall be your heir. Then he brought him outside and said, Look now toward heaven, and count the stars, and see if you are able to number them. And he said to him, So shall your descendants be. And he believed in the Lord, and he accounted it to him for righteousness. Then he said to him, I am the Lord who brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans to give you your land to inherit it. And he said, Lord God, how shall I know that I will inherit it? So he said to him, Bring me a 3-year-old heifer and a 3-year-old female goat, a 3-year-old ram, a turtle dove, a young pigeon. Then he brought all these things to him and cut them in two, down the middle, and placed them in the opposite of each other. But he did not cut the birds in two. Then, and when the vultures came down on the carcasses, Abram drove them away. Now, when the sun was going down, and a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and behold, a horror and great darkness fell upon him. Then he said to Abram, Know certainly that your descendants will be strangers in a land that is not theirs, and will serve them, and they will afflict them 400 years. And also the nation whom they serve I will judge afterward, and they shall come out with great possessions. Now as for you, you shall go to your fathers in peace. You shall be buried at a good old age. But in the fourth generation they shall return here, for the iniquity of the Amorite is yet complete. And it came to pass, and the sun went down, and it was dark, and behold, there appeared a smoking oven and a burning torch that passed between those pieces. On the same day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, To your descendants I have given this land, from the river of Egypt and the great river of the river Euphrates, the Kenites and the Kezanites and the Kadamites, the Hittites, the Pezerites, and the Rephaim, the Amorites, the Canaanites, and the Gershonites, and the Jebusites. All right, we have. Let's take a quick break here. We read chapters 11 through 15 now, and we got a lot of things happening. We have the Tower of Babel happening, and the Lord confusing the people with language so they wouldn't be able to understand each other, because they were building a tower into heaven, and that's and it just and as we were reading, it literally was talking about how, what great things man can do if they were all of one accord. I mean, they were literally building a tower into heaven for, for their own glory, I guess you could say, for their own, prospect. It had nothing to do with anything else. Me personally. Then, and when we move on from there to start reading about Abram, who God is promising to make a father of many nations, and his leaving the land of Ur into the land of Canaan. And now we have him and his brother Lot. And we also got a battle, like the first battle that we know about, this war between those in the land with all those kings. Um, we have that battle, and we had Abram coming to save his brother Lot. And it makes me kind of think about all those movies where someone gets captured and we have to go save them. We have to go save them from the evil would be whomevers. It made me think of that when I was um, reading this. And then we have, Abram's feeling some certain type of way, like, hey, okay, I got all this land, I got all these riches and whatnot, but I have no heir to pass it on to. I'm fixing to have to give all my stuff to my cousin or whomever whomever is Eleazar. And also, a notable thing is, Abram was kind of scary, even though God promised him this land where he's, having his wife pretend to be his sister, so and causing a huge mess with these kings, um, fooling around. But that's where we are so far, and where I'm gonna, and me personally, where I'm gonna be putting a pin of something to study later is, I found it quite, like I'm not sure why. God has him wanting him to offer the sacrifice here in the last chapter we read of these calf and a pigeon and a turtle dove and all these things. Like I'm curious as to why you know it was taken out time to mention that, and how he prepared these offerings and all of that. And I find it kind of interesting. That's where I'm going to be putting a pin for myself personally. I found that kind of an interesting thing. Like, why? Well, he's having them do these sacrifices and whatnot, and he falls asleep and have a terrible dream. But, anyways, let's go. Let's start moving on. And for the last 5 chapters, I hope you're enjoying me reading this as well as hearing the Bible in its entirety. But let's start moving on to the next one, chapter 16 of Genesis. Genesis 16. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, had borne no children, and she had the Egyptian maidservant whose name was Hagar. So Sarai said to Abram, Now see that the Lord has restrained me from bearing children. Please go into my maid. Perhaps I shall obtain children by her. And Abram heeded the voice of Sarai. Then Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar his maid, the Egyptian, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife. After Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, so he went into Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress became despised in her eyes. Then Sarai said to Abram, my wrong be upon you. I gave you my maidservant to your embrace, and when she saw that she had conceived, I became despised in her eyes. The Lord judge between you and me. So Abram said to Sarai, indeed, your maid is in your hand to do as you please. And when Sarai dealt harshly with her, she fled from her presence. Now the angel of the Lord found her by a spring of water in the wilderness, by the spring on her way to Shur. And she said, Hagar, Sarai's maid, where have you come from and where are you going? And she said, I am fleeing the presence of my mistress Sarai. And the angel of the Lord said to her, return to your mistress and submit yourself under her hand. And then the angel of the Lord said to her, I will multiply your descendants exceedingly, so that they shall not be counted for multitude. And the angel of the Lord said to her, behold, you are with child, and you shall bear a son, and you shall call his name Ishmael, because the Lord has heard of your affliction. And he shall be a wild man, and he shall be against every man, and every man's hand against him, and he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren. And then she called the name of the Lord who spoke to her. You are the God who sees, she said, and I have also here seen him who has seized me. Therefore the well was called Lahai Roy. Observe, it is between Kadesh and Bered. So Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram named his son whom Hagar bore Ishmael. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to Abram. Genesis 17. When Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared unto Abram and said to him, I am Almighty God, walk before me and be blameless, and I will make my covenant between me and you, and I will multiply you exceedingly. Then Abram fell on his face, and God talked with him, saying, As for me, behold, my covenant is with you, and I shall be the father of many nations. No longer shall you be called Abram, but your name shall be called Abraham, for you are the father of many nations. I will make you exceedingly fruitful, and I will make you nations of you, and kings shall come through you. I will establish my covenant between me and you for the descendants after you and their generations, for an everlasting covenant. To be God to be God to you and to your descendants after you. Also I shall give you descendants after the land which you are a stranger, and all of the land of Canaan, as an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. And God said to Abraham, As for you, you shall keep my covenant, and your descendants after you throughout the generations. This is my covenant which you shall keep between me and you and your descendants after you. Every male child among you shall be circumcised, and you shall be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskins. And it shall be the sign of the covenant between me and you. He who is 8 days old among you shall be circumcised. Every male child in your generation who is born in your house or bought with money from any foreigners who is not your descendant. He who is born in your house and who is not bought with your money shall be circumcised. And my covenant will be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. And the uncircumcised male child who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, that person shall be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. Then God said to Abraham, As for Sarai your wife, you shall not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall be her name. And I will bless her and give you a son by her. Then I will bless her, and she shall be called the mother of all nations. Kings of people shall be from her. Then Abraham fell on his face and laughed and said in his heart, shall a child be born from a man who is 100 years old? And shall Sarah, who was 99 years old, bear a child? And Abraham said to God, oh, that Ishmael might have lived before you. Then God said, no, Sarah your wife shall bear you a son, and I shall call his name Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his descendants after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard you. Behold, I have blessed him, and I will make him fruitful, and he will multiply him exceedingly. He shall beget 12 princes, and I will make them a great nation. But my covenant will be established with Isaac, from whom Sarah shall bear you at this set time next year. Then he finished talking with him, and God went up from Abraham. So Abraham took Ishmael his son, who all were born in his house, and all who were brought with his money, and every male among the men of Abram's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskins, that same day, as God said to him. Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, and Ishmael his son was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. That very same day, Abraham was circumcised and his son Ishmael. And when all the men of his house were born in his house, or bought with money from a foreigner, or circumcised with him. Genesis 18. Then the Lord appeared by him in the terebinth trees of Mamre, and sitting in the tent door in the heat of the day. So he lifted his eyes and looked, and behold, 3 men were standing by him. And when he saw them, he ran into the tent door to meet them, and he bowed himself to the ground, and said, my Lord, if I have now found favor in your sight, do not pass on by your servant. Please let a little water be brought and wash your feet, and the rest yourselves under the tree. And I will bring a morsel of bread that it may refresh your hearts, that after you may pass by inasmuch as your servant had, as you have come to your servant. They said, do as you have said. So Abraham hurried into the tent with Sarah and said, quickly make ready the 3 measures of fine meal, knead it, and make cakes. And Abraham ran to the herd and took tender good calf and gave it to the young man, and hastened him to prepare it. So he took butter and milk and the calf which he had prepared and set it before them, and he stood by them under the trees as they ate. Then they said to him, where is Sarah your wife? And he said, here in the tent. And he said, I will surely return to you according to the time of life, and behold, Sarah your wife shall have a son. And Sarah was listening behind the tent door, which was behind him. Now, Sarah and Abraham and Sarah were old and advanced in age, and Sarah had passed the age of childbearing. Therefore Sarah laughed within herself, saying, I have grown old, and I shall have pleasure, my Lord also being old. And Sarah said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh, saying, sure, I shall surely bear a child since I am old? Is there anything too hard for the Lord? At the appointed time I will return to you according to the time of life, and Sarah shall have a son. But Sarah denied it, saying, I did not laugh, for she was afraid. And he said, but you did laugh. Then the men arose from there and looked toward Sodom, and Abram went with them, and to send them on their way. And the Lord said, shall I hide from Abraham what I am doing? Since Abraham shall surely become a great mighty nation, and nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I have known him, in order to that he may command his children and his household after him, that they keep the way of the Lord, and to do righteousness and justice, that the Lord may bring Abraham what he has spoken to him. And the Lord said, because of the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great, because their sin is very great, I will go down now and see what they have done altogether according to the outcry against it that has come to me, and if not, I will know. Then the men turned away in there and went toward Sodom, but Abraham stood before the Lord, and Abraham came near and said, would you also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Suppose there are 50 righteous within the city. Would you also destroy the place and not spare it for the 50 righteous that were there in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing as this, to slay the righteous with the wicked, so that the righteous should be as the wicked. Far be it from you. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? So the Lord said, if I find 50 righteous within the city, I will spare all the place for their sakes. Then Abraham answered and said, indeed now, who am I but a dust and ashes, have taken upon myself to speak to the Lord. Suppose there are 5 less than 50 righteous. Would you destroy all of it for the lack of 5? So he said, if I find there be 45, I will not destroy it. Verse 29. And then he spoke to him yet again, saying, suppose there should be 40 found there. So he said, I will not do it for the sake of 40. And then he said, let the Lord not be angry, and I will speak. Suppose 30 should be found there. So he said, I will not do it if there I find 30 there. And he said, indeed now I have taken upon myself to speak to the Lord. Suppose 20 should be found there. So he said, I will not destroy it for the sake of 20. Then he said, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak but once more. Suppose 10 should be found there. And then he said, I will not destroy it for the sake of the 10. So the Lord went his way, and as soon as he had finished speaking with Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. Genesis 19. So now the angels who have came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting at the gate of Sodom. When Lot saw them, he rose to meet them and bowed himself to his face towards the ground. And he said, here now, my lords, please return into your servant's house and spend the night, and wash your feet. Then you may rise early and go on your way. And they said, no, but we will spend the night in the open square. But he insisted strongly, so that they turned into him his house and entered his house. And he made them a feast and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. Now before they laid down the men of the city of Sodom, both young and old, all the people from every quarter surrounded the house. And they called to Lot and said to him, where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us that we may know them carnally. So Lot went out to them through the doorway and shut the door behind him, and said, please, my brethren, do not do so wickedly. See now that I have 2 daughters who have not known a man. Please let me bring them out to you, and you may do to them as you wish. Only do not do nothing to these men, since this is the reason they have come under the shadow of my roof. I have a feeling that Lot knew what was going to happen, which is why he was all like, no, 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 come stay with me. All right, but verse 9. And they said, stand back. Then they said, this one came to stay here, and he keeps acting as a judge. Now we will deal worse with you than with them. So they pressed hard against the man Lot, and came near to break down the door. But the men reached out their hands and pulled Lot into the house with them, and shut the door. And they struck the men who were at the doorway with the house with blindness, so both small and great, so that they became weary trying to find the door. Verse 12. Then the men said to Lot, have you anyone else here, son-in-law, and your sons, your daughters, whomever you have in this city, take them out of this place, for we will destroy this place, because the outcry against them has grown great before the face of the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it. See, so I had, like, me in my mind, I have the feeling that because these angels of the Lord showed up, the wickedness in them was also stirred up. But that's just me in my mind. I'm just just how this came about. Like all of a sudden, things kind of escalated. But anyways, so Lot went out of the and spoke to his son-in-laws who had married his daughters and said, "Get up out of this place, for the Lord will destroy the city." But to his son-in-laws he seemed to be joking. When the morning dawned, the angels urged Lot to hurry, saying, "Arise and take your wife and 2 daughters, who are here, lest you be consumed in the punishment of the city." And while he lingered, the men took hold of his hand and his wife's hand, and the wives of his 2 daughters. And the Lord being merciful to him, they brought him out and set him outside the city. So they came to pass that they had brought them outside, that he said, "Escape for your life. Do not look behind you, nor stay here anywhere in the plain. Escape to the mountains, lest you be destroyed." Then Lot said to them, "Please no, my lords. Indeed, now your servants have found favor in your sight and increased your mercy which you have shown me by saving my life. But I cannot escape to the mountains, lest some evil overtake me and I die. See now that this city is near enough to flee to, and it is a little one. Please let me escape there, and my soul shall live." What is this dude talking about? I mean, no, Lord. And he said to them, "See that I have favored you concerning this thing also, and I will not overthrow this city for which you have spoken. Hurry, escape there, for I cannot do anything until you arrive there." Therefore the city was called Zor. Verse 23. Then the sun had risen upon the earth, and Lot entered Zor. Then the Lord rained brimstone and fire upon Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of the heavens. So he overthrew those cities, and all the plain, and all the inhabitants of the cities that grew on the ground. But his wife looked back behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. And Abraham went early in the morning to the place where he had stood before the Lord. Then he looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and toward all the land of the plain, and he saw, and behold, the smoke in the land, which went up like the smoke of a furnace. And it came to pass that when God destroyed the cities of the plain, that God remembered Abraham, and sent Lot out to the midst of the overthrow. Then he overthrew the cities in which Lot had dwelt. Verse 30. Then Lot went up out of Zoar and dwelt in the mountains, and his 2 daughters were with him, for he was afraid to dwell in Zoar. And then he and his 2 daughters dwelt in a cave. Now the firstborn said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there is no man on the earth to come into us as is a custom of all of the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve the lineage of our father." So they had made their father drink wine that night. And the firstborn went to lay with the father, and he did not know when she lay down or when she arose. When it happened the next day, that the firstborn said to the younger, "Indeed, I lay with my father last night. Let us make him drink wine tonight and also, and you will go in and lie with him, that we may preserve the lineage of our father." Then they made their father drink wine that night also. And the younger arose and lay with him. And when he did not know when she lay down or when she arose. Thus the both daughters of Lot were with child by their father. The firstborn bore a son and called his name Moab. He is the father of the Moabites to this day. And the younger who she bore also a son named Ben-Ammi, and he is the father of the people of Ammon to this day. Genesis 20. And Abraham journeyed from there to the south and dwelt between Kadesh and Shur and stayed in Gerar. Now Abraham said to Sarai his wife, "She is my sister." And the Amalek king of Gerar sent and took Sarah. But God came to Amalek in a dream by night and said to him, "Indeed you are a dead man because of the woman whom you have taken, for she is a man's wife." But Amalek said, But Amalek had not come near her, and he said, "Lord, will you slay a righteous nation also? Did he not say to me, 'She is my sister'?" And she even herself said, He is my brother. In the integrity of my heart and innocence of my hands, I have done this. And God said to him in a dream, Yes, I know you did this in integrity of your heart, for I also withheld you from sinning against me. Therefore I did not let you touch her. Now therefore restore the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you shall live. But if you do not know, if you do not restore her, know that you shall surely die, and you and all of who are yours. So Abimelech rose early in the morning and called his servants, and told all these things in their hearing. And the men were very much afraid. And Abimelech called Abraham and said to him, What have you done to us? How have I offended you that you brought on me and my kingdom a great sin? You have done deeds to me that I had not ought be done. Then Abimelech said to Abraham, What did I have in view that you have done this thing? And Abraham said, Because I thought surely the fear of God is not in this place, and they will kill me on an account of my wife. But indeed she is truly my sister, and she is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother, that she became my wife. And it was come to pass that when God caused me to wander from my father's house, that I said to her, that this is your kindness that you should do for me in every place where we go. Say of me, he is my brother. Then Amalek took sheep, oxen, and male and female servants, and gave them to Abraham, and he restored Sarah's wife to him. And Amalek said, See that my land is before you, and dwelt therein as it pleases you. Then Sarah said, Behold, that I have given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. Indeed, this vindicates you before all of the before all who are with you, and before everybody. Thus she was rebuked. So Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Amalek his wife and his female servants, and they bore children. For the Lord had closed up all the wombs of the house of Amalek because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. All right, we did it. We finished Genesis 11 through 20. Thank you if you're still listening and watching. Um, some things that overall that kind of stood out to me were that some of Abraham's character, like he thought that there was no one righteous in the land, and especially here we see this two or three times now within these chapters, these 10 chapters of Abraham using his wife to ensure his own safety, kind of that Sarah was a very beautiful woman, and any man would want her, any king would want her, and in doing so, if he was perceived to be her husband, he would be killed so that they could have her or locked away or whatever. But it was his wrong perception of these people in this land that he was passing through that caused a lot of calamity for these people. And here in the last chapter, chapter 20, we see how you know uh, Amalek was like, "Hey, look, I haven't done nothing to her," and they told me that she was his brother, and all of this, and God kind of corrected him. If you notice that, no, I stopped you from doing that. And he had shut up the womb of every female in his house, in this king's you know house or place, to because of this. And like God's chosen people, um and you know carry an anointing, carry things on them, and when you mess with that, when you and knowingly or unknowingly, it can cause you some calamity, cause you some harm. So always treat people well and with respect, because you don't know who you're talking to. You don't know who's God is using uh, for any specific purpose or plan. So we always have to be mindful of that. Um, then Lot is a very peculiar case, but very peculiar person, because I kind of want to compare them, because but it doesn't really say that. We always see when before Abraham moved anywhere or did anything. He would prepare an altar, and he would get with the Lord before he started doing or moving anywhere. And when we read about Lot so far, that wasn't in the picture. He looked upon all this land and saw that, hey, there's some green pastures over here. There's a water over here. This looks like a good spot, so here I go. Just for there to be a lot of evil and calamity over there, that God had to destroy that area completely in its entirety. And then Lot, was over here pleading, like, I ain't trying to go in no mountains and all this. Let me just find the nearest city that I can go to. And just for that to ultimately to be destroyed as well. Um, and I can't help but think that, if, Lot had been a little bit more attentive and careful, and getting with God before he started making these moves to go places in this land filled with other peoples, he might have fared better. He wouldn't have ended up in a cave, and his children wouldn't have, you know, what we call now having this incest to continue the line of her fathers. Yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of things, that don't spell well when we aren't, asking and seeking God first about our lives. That's what really stood out to me in these 10 chapters here, 11 through 20. Just a few things. But anywho, thank you for watching and listening. I hope you enjoyed it. It's always good to, spend time with God and read. I hope you're reading on your own in your own Bibles and getting to know God's Word. But be safe, be kind, be wise. Bye bye.